Hi there, my name is Patrick Green from winningscreentime.com. I get to travel around talking with students in high schools about digital wellness. The presentation that I use with high school students is called Who's Controlling Your Scrolling? And this video is a follow-up advisory lesson that can be used with small groups of students to sort of talk about how they might change some of their habits and behaviors with using their digital devices. If you are a teacher wanting to use this advisory lesson, you can look in the description of the video on YouTube and find a Google slide deck that pauses and has some graphics for you to use. Otherwise, you might just pause this video and use it as is. Hello, high school students. If you are watching this video, you likely joined me for a Who is Controlling Your Scrolling session where we talked about how the designers of apps and games and phones are really trying to get us to stay in their apps and games and phones. And I invited you to really think about, do you have a balanced relationship with your digital devices? Or perhaps maybe you feel like you are sometimes distracted, or you might sometimes feel like you are addicted to your phone. And I'm not telling you that you are. Remember, I'm asking you to think about your own data and your own feelings and just be mindful about, am I in control of what I'm doing on this device? Or are these designers good enough to sort of pull me in and sort of tell me what to do and how I spend my time? So this process that we're about to go through is sort of how to break a bad habit if you think you have one. And of course, we need to start by writing down, what is it that we think is our bad habit. Maybe you are feeling, just in general, distracted by your phone a number of times throughout the day. Or maybe you're thinking, I am addicted to this phone. Or maybe it's a specific app that you know you spend too much time on. I'd like to invite you just to take a moment to write down what it is that you would like to change, or what it is that you think your imbalance currently is. So, what is your bad habit that you'd like to break? All right, so you've written down what is your bad habit that you want to break. And if you really feel like I don't have a problem, then I would encourage you to think about the 60% of students who do feel distracted by their phone at least once a day, or the 40% of teenagers who say they feel addicted, or the 35% of teenagers who say they spend too much time on social media, and have them in mind and their habits. And maybe you can come up with some ideas for how they could break their habits. All right, so let me take you back to the habit loop from James Clear's book, Atomic Habit. And basically, to break a habit, we need to sort of reverse this habit loop. So, where there is a cue, a ding, a buzz, a vibration, a notification on your phone, we need to make that invisible. So, that's one of the ways that we can break a habit, is we can make the cues invisible. So I'm going to invite you now to think about, how might you make your habit, or the initial thing about your habit, that cue, how can you make it invisible? All right, so you've written down some ways that you think you can make your habit invisible. I want to share two ideas that I've collected from other students uh, that makes the habit invisible. All right, so one student, David, who told me that they actually have a sort of candy bar phone or a dumb phone, and not that they've given up their smartphone completely, but when they have a really tough week in high school and they have a lot of things coming up, they know they don't want to get sucked into those social media apps and games or whatever it is. And so they actually move their SIM card over to their dumb phone. They text their friends, I'm just going to be on text message this week. And they hand their parents the smartphone, and they take a week off from being in all of those other things that can end up sucking their time. There are other ways that you can make your habits invisible, and I hope that you're coming up with a good list that you can talk about with your advisory. All right, the next piece of the habit loop is that craving. So you get that notification, and then you have this urge, this craving to go see what that notification says or what photo was posted about you. And So to reverse the craving or to flip it, we want to, because it's this attraction to wanting to go get the answer and see what it is. And so, how do we reverse that? Well, we try to make it unattractive rather than attractive. So I would ask you to think about, how can you make your habit unattractive? In other words, you're thinking, how might I reframe my mindset? What are the benefits to me for avoiding my habit? All right, now I want to share with you two ways that students have told me that they try to make the habit unattractive. One is actually literally unattractive. They take their phone and they turn it to grayscale so that those beautiful apps and colors aren't calling out to them, and it just looks like a less attractive device. But we're not talking literally so much, although you might try that. Another idea is that students take what they know about trying to make their habit unattractive, and they give themselves those messages back. So one student actually put a message to themselves on their lock screen to tell them, this isn't really what you want to spend your time doing. So I took that idea and I have on my lock screen, who's in control? So I'm actually asking, is the phone telling me what to do right now? Or am I doing what I want to be doing? That might be a message right there. Is this what you want to do? Whatever that message is you want to give yourself, you could put it on your lock screen. So every time you go to your phone, you're actually talking to yourself, maybe talking yourself out of doing your bad habit. But let's go back to the habit loop and this idea of, you get the cue, then you have this craving, which makes you do your response. And when you think about responding, clicking on that notification, or just getting into that app that you spend too much time in, when we think about our response, we want to make our response difficult. That's a way we can try to break our bad habits, is make our response difficult. So I want you to think about, how can you create some friction in going and doing the things that you don't want to do, whether it's that habit or spending too much time in something. How can you increase friction or make it more difficult to do what you don't want to do? All right, so as far as making that response more difficult to do, a couple ideas. One, I gave you the rubber band the other day, and that rubber band goes around your phone and it actually creates some friction. It doesn't allow you to scroll easily. It's like a physical friction, it gets in your way. Other things that I've heard students do is simply turn off autoplay. If their problem is that they watch Netflix and they end up all day on Saturday watching like 10 things in a row because of autoplay, turn off autoplay. At least then you are having to make the decision. Do I want to watch this next video? Yes. Or no, maybe I'm going to get up and do something else. But you make it difficult for it not just to keep playing. Another idea I've heard from a teenager is to actually take the app that's causing them the trouble and putting it far, far away on a screen where you have to swipe, swipe, swipe to get to the app, rather than have it be right there on your home screen and easy, even just a couple swipes, and you might be thinking, is this really what I want to do? All right, and then looking at the habit loop, getting to the last component of the loop is that reward. And when we think about rewards, we want to make it unsatisfying rather than satisfying. And I think this one is a little more difficult for us to get our heads around. But James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, kind of describes it as, how might you make the costs of your bad habit public and painful? Because when we sort of fail in public, then that is unsatisfying. And so that's kind of how he's framed it. So I'd like you to think about that for a little while and go ahead and jot some ideas down. How might you make the costs of your bad habit public and painful? All right, we're talking about making the reward unsatisfying. And so one group of students I talked with, actually a group of friends who went out together on the weekends or even during the week, made this rule for themselves. When they went out to dinner and to hang out, they would all put their phones in the center of the table, and they sort of made a rule that whoever touches their phone first pays for everybody's meal. And so they added this financial cost to, doing your bad habit. And as a group, they found that this was a group of 17 and 18-year-olds, and they really felt like they got to have a great hour together of just face-to-face communication, and not well. They they liked to put this pressure on themselves to not go use their phones. All right. I do hope this has been helpful in thinking about how you can get more in control of your scroll and really sort of break bad habits that aren't making you happy and healthy. And I would encourage you to share some of your ideas with me. In the last slide of the slide deck, I'll include some of the ideas I've collected from students, but also there's a link there for you to share with me if there's some ideas that you have on how you can have a healthy relationship with your phone. I would love to hear that because then I can share them with other students. All right. Thank you.